Hello, hello. This is Craig Patterson, aka Patty, aka the Pink Pig. Here to show you our data-driven methodology behind our client development process. We just get attacked. It's been going on now for I started 15 years ago, but we get an attack for about 12, I would say, and it's from one side or the other. The latest, usually the latest marketing people. Used to be CrossFit HQ. Before that, it was affiliates that were trying to become consultants that are all, left the consulting arena and their business has gone bankrupt. But they argue the same things over and over, like the things that we know that work for your client development process, coach development process, owner development process. So I'm going to talk really clearly about client development process and how we came up with what we got. And the first thing I would start off with is we're not attached to anything. We will change all of it. And we've changed. When you see what our actual client development process is, you will see we have changed dramatically just in the past 2 years what we actually do at our school because of what we found in the group. So it's let me share my screen here, and so you can see this thing. I'm just going to keep my, it's a visual representation of what you see here, and it also it allows me to keep my thoughts clear. So hopefully you can see this, but we got this old, I don't know, we got this old school sort of gym thing up. Back in that day, there was no client development process. It's basically, and those gyms still exist today. And, it's a different model, and you come in and, you pay anywhere between $4 a month and $50 a month. Maybe some like at high end places is $200 a month because they got the good showers and, but anyway, it's come on in. Don't kill yourself, sign a waiver, done. No coaching. What we're talking about for my process is a coaching facility, a micro gym that is, and we argue what we found is towards a higher end, higher value, and coaching sort of thing. So I'll just give you a quick background on myself because it is relevant here. The things we're finding and the things we're going after. So I grew up in a small town, Gaspé, Quebec. It's been around 1534. We're the first people that tried to create a habitation there. Most of them died or integrated with the natives because they got scurvy. The rest of them hightailed it back to Europe. The real permanent settlement didn't really start up again until I think my ancestors there, 1763. From Northern Ireland. My mother's, and that was like, the whole war and all this stuff. And anyway, long story short, small community had to take care of each other or you died. Got an engineering degree, worked for 2 Fortune 100 companies, built my own sustainable green engineering firm. I was one of the first lead guys in North America, the world. And we looked at buildings and 100-year life cycles and stuff like that. So it's very different. So the two things are community and 100-year life cycles. And then I started the 5th affiliate in the world. Greg Glassman was my mentor. He was basically broken in the garage back then those days. I got finally MadLab School of Fitness in 2008. We got registered in 2009, accredited in 2015. It's very important when it comes to coach development process. And then I founded the MadLab group in 2012, and we were incorporated in 2013. Okay, so how do we find this stuff? What you're about to see is it's a search for the truth. It's in the data. If you ever worked in a lab, and I have worked in a lab, and you're doing titrations, and you're trying to find things, it's trial and error, whether it's a physics lab or a chemistry lab or whatever. You repeat it until it's measurable, observable, and repeatable. And then you have something. So when I see things like, there's a new hybrid gym out there, and it's part of it's going to be online and part of it's going to be in the gym, and this is going to solve all your problems. And awesome, that's conjecture. That's total conjecture. Has there been an alpha study, a beta study, a gamma study? Do we have observable, measurable, repeatable results? Do we have a client development process? Do we have a coach development process associated with this? No, it's just it's a marketing guy saying, hey, I'll get you all the leads. I'll take all the money up front, and you can go try it out, just like the 6-week challenge, which, the marketing people made all the money, and the gyms and the coaches got totally fucked in that thing. So conjecture is, we've got to say, it's just a statement. We don't know if it's true or not. Hypothesis is we can't really test it, but we think it could be true, and here's why. And then theory is, you can develop the process further and further and further so it fits into everything, every conceivable, test you can give to it. And then law is, it's been fully tested. It works the same way every time. You drop a ball off the roof, it's 9.8 meters per second. So what we're saying is we've done enough of this. We know it's a great working theory, but it actually could be law. And the 8 laws, which you see some results, the first 4 or 8 laws are this client development process. So this scientific method is what we're all about. So first of all, you got to think of what do you want to find, right? So if you're in a lab or you're testing things, we're in a gym, which is just a lab. What is it we want to get? Is it we want to bring as many people in as possible, make as much money up front as we can and leave? No, that's not what we're doing. What we're trying to do is build great communities, right? So the thing has to work for all 3 members in that community, which is the client. The client's got to win here, right? How do you measure that? Well, they stick around. And if they're sticking around and paying you $1 a month or $10 a month, probably not a lot of value there. But if they're paying you $300 a month and sticking around, chances are they're getting fit, they're prepared for life, and they're having a good life, and they're getting what they want, right? So average client value, how much are they paying you? And retention, they stick around. They're paying you a whole lot of money, which is high value. Stick around, you got something. Now you're building a community. So if you get those 2 things, then it has to work for the coach, right? Out there in the fitness world today, it doesn't work for the coach. Why? How do we know? They leave between 18 months and 3 years. And if you go to any personal training studio, the high-end ones, they actually tell their people right away, you'll be gone in 3 years, but we're going to train you to do a really good job. And there's an opportunity maybe for management or marketing or something like this, right? I have coaches that have been with me for 15 years. I've got 6 that have been with me at least, 8. So how do we keep them around? Total coach pay, $1 per coach hour. If they can make over $45 an hour, that's like a really good tradesperson. Guess what? They'll stay in the industry, right? So, and the total coach pay, I've got some that have made over 100. At my facility, average $74,000 a year and work less than 25 hours a week on the floor. So if you got the first thing and working for the client, working for the coach, and that's all working, then it's got to work for the business. How do we measure that? Profit, or EBITDA, earning before interest, taxes, and amortization, right? If you got an actual business that produces profit, everybody's fucking paid, then you can asset is worth something. It's stable, it's worth, you can sell it, and it's worth 5 times that EBITDA, right? Maybe 4 times EBITDA plus value of assets if you got like really expensive new assets or something. The equation might skew that way. All right, so how do we go about doing this? Well, in the early days, Greg was all about show me the data, and he was trying to prove that his fitness worked better than others, and he just was a constant search for his measurable, observable, repeatable. And if you're around back in those days, you remember that. But it's basically you're trying something, it fails, you try it again, and you measure it. So you're measuring average client value and churn. It's probably the most number one things. And then if the coach is making money and you're making money, it's all good. So we tried things like this Groupon ramp, especially when Groupon came along. We tested it 3-on-1, 4-on-1, 5-on-1. In the early days, I started off being a personal trainer. Greg was a great personal trainer. It wasn't the group thing back then, and he showed me how to do that. And we could see what our churn rate was. And I took on 3. So we started looking at all these things, and we started making assumptions, and then we started looking at the data, and we started making conclusions. Right, and it told us some very clear things, which you'll see as we keep on going. So from 2004 to 2011, we did it all pretty much in house, and we came up with a really clear client development process. And then so we went out to our friends when we saw CrossFit's sort of the imminent doom coming. When Groupon came along, and they were selling a fundamentals package for $20, and our fundamentals package was $750. I mean, the same name as this guy down the street selling it for 20. You could kind of see you couldn't protect your brand. So we're like, okay, let's see what we can do. So I contacted 7 of my friends, 7 guys who own gyms. They brought a few friends in, and we did a study on 7 gyms. This is how you go about proving your analysis is right. This is how we go from hypothesis to theory, right? And then they got really good results. Basically, doubled the revenue. Right, all those gyms in that year, and they doubled their profit. And Coach Bay we didn't measure in the first one. Then we brought in 30 from that results. We brought 33 more gyms in 2013, and they got similar results in less time. And then we took another 55 gyms, and this was all with no infrastructure. This was like we didn't even have Dropbox then. It was like an email with a bunch of PDFs and a few PowerPoints, and we did an exec program for a weekend to try and teach people how to do this, right? And all we had then was the owner development program. We had the coach development program we were doing in-house, and I was getting it accredited in 2009, but we didn't have anything online, or we didn't have anything to show people. So anyway, these are the results they got. And then in 2015, a guy came along. He was doing his MBA at Harvard, and the CrossFit Boston was going through the changes at the time. He said, "Wow, it's amazing how much better the coaching is, how much better the classes are run. Like, what the fuck's going on here?" And he called me up, and he wanted to be my CEO. I said, "I've got no money, I can't pay you, but why don't you take a look at the study?" So he did a 6-month study of these 45 or 50 gyms, I think, at the time. And what he found was they had in a year they had 54% gross revenue increase from 13 to 21. This was on average, and they had a profit increase of 120% from 1,800 to 3,800, and the coach pay went up 80% from 2,200 to 4,000 with this system. So we got this. We were pretty encouraged, and we were like, okay, I think we can go to market. We hadn't done any marketing whatsoever. We had nothing. We was just all an underground movement at that point. So in 2014-15, I reached out to Zen Planner, and I got really good friends with their CEO, Jeff Gardner, who's a really noble guy, actually. And we looked at 1,200 or 1,600 affiliate gyms, and we can look at their client retention, and we could look at average client value, and we could make some assumptions about some other things, but we could really see client retention, average client value really good on this thing. So we were like, fuck, this is amazing. 1,600 gyms in real time. You can look at this thing. So what we did is his COO, Brian, I can't remember Brian's last name, and they had a little department, couple of people that were like, stats nerds and stuff. And, we picked out 100 gyms in the list. Then we looked at the website to determine their fundamentals program. And then we broke them down into categories, like, are they going straight into a group class? Are they doing a group on-ramp? Are they doing one-on-one personal training? And it was pretty clear from the website what they were doing. And then we looked at the churn and the average client value over the course of that year in quarterly segments. You know what I mean? And I'll show you one of these quarterly things they produced. And then, you could even further dissect the group into on-ramps, into how many coach-to-student ratio there were, number of sessions, and the cost. And then, we looked at another 100 gyms, and similar results came out. Then we looked at another 100 gyms, and similar kind of results came out. So you could start seeing a workable theory. It was almost turned into law now. We had showed repeatable, observable, measurable results that it's held up time after time after time. Over 1,600 gyms, it's pretty hard to argue with, right? But this equation formed, this coach-to-student ratio. The lower the coach-to-student ratio, the better results. I.e., 1-on-1 got a lot better results than 3-on-1, get better results than 5-on-1. It's pretty fucking obvious. It should be. This should not be something alarming, but I'm telling you, when we put this out there, we got attacked from everywhere. People telling us that we were full of shit. I mean, it's crazy not to think it works this way. You're gonna sit down and have a relationship with 1-on-1, and they're paying $80 an hour, that they're not going to stick around better, and their average client value is not going to be better. I mean, it's absolutely ludicrous to argue the other way, but I mean, it's been amazing the amount of criticism we've got for that. And, you see the industry slowly changing now. There's way more people doing PT first, and the 6-week challenges ripped through, destroyed one business after another. And people are like, oh, done that, seen that, you got to do something different, right? And then we found the more sessions they did in fundamentals, the better they got, the better everybody got, client, coach, and owner. And the more that you charged, up into a level where, people didn't come in, there's a sort of a balance there. The better you get at sales and marketing and executing the program, better the results. But the more the cost, better everybody did. So this was what the equation looked like. This is actually an older graph. It should be a point at 1 coach-to-student ratio and at 20%. We found that over the course of 1 year, if they did one-on-one personal training first, and I think the number was at least was more than 10 sessions kind of thing, they only churned about 20%. Once you got the 2-on-1, it wasn't a huge increase. It went up, kind of like went up 50%, but still at like 30%. But as soon as you jumped up to 3, that churn rate jumped up to about 70%. People that started it off in the program, 70% were gone within a year. And if you got over 5, it was like started to get up over 80, 90. People that they threw them straight into group class, like 10 or 15 or 20 people, you're pretty much guaranteed to lose them. It doesn't go right to 0, but it's pretty close. We looked at some of these 6-week challenges where Even recently, they were kind of tricked to come in. Like, people don't forget that. You get a free challenge, and then you come in, and then it's like, oh, sorry, it's a $600 deposit. They remember that stuff. Maybe in the moment you get them to buy, but 3 months down the road, there's something out with integrity. So those things are churning over 90%. The next thing here is number of one-on-one fundamentals. Like if you only did one, it still churned pretty high. If you did 3, it churned lower. If you did 10, it churned lower. If you did 20, it started to optimize out there. More than 20 didn't make that much of a difference. But if you actually started to do like 40 and 50, like you kept people straight into PT, they churned a little more. Actually, we looked at some PT gyms out of this whole thing. They were PT only, and their churn rate started going up after a while over time because maybe it cost, maybe the relationship was, that the whole personal training thing can get a little weird. And then price. If it was super cheap, people left. And I know people that have done 3 personal training sessions for free. Well, the energy is so off there, and one person's giving all the energy, and the other person would almost feel bad about it, or devalue it, or as the price got lower and lower and lower, the churn rate went up and up and up. But in this chart, you can see really low price was high churn, and then the higher the price went, the lower the churn got until it sort of stabilized somewhere around the market rate for a personal trainer, or somewhere around there, right? So, key data points, and you can see it from this chart here. I'll go back up. Affiliate gyms churned over the course of that year. Affiliate gyms are mostly doing group on-ramp or straight into classes, churned about 75% of their clients. MadLab gyms are around 30%, 30 to 35, or something right in there. We had to do some adjustments for, there was one issue we had to do adjustments for specialty programs, because under Zen's thing, specialty program, and it would turn out like a churn. So we had to go through and correct for all that. That was a lot of work, but we figured out an equation that took care of it after we looked at, a few hundred of these things. I don't know, maybe it was a few dozen. I don't know. The math guys know that better than me. And MadLab school is around 15%. So you can see dramatic differences in churn rates with the correlated to the fundamentals program. I think there's also correlated to the coach development program here, but it was really hard to see. It's a correlation number, not necessarily causation. I think causation would be the client development process and the coach development process, as well as the owner development process. But basically, integrity, honesty, straightforwardness, and it trumped doing those one-on-ones. Average lifetime client value, affiliate gyms were $1,700, MadLab gyms were $5,300, and MadLab school was almost $11,000. Average lifetime client value, so they're paying more money and they're sticking around. That was good. So here was a quarterly health check. This was one for one quarter of 2014 or 15. I can't remember right now. Screenshot says from early 2016. So anyway, you can see churn rates, annualized churn rate was 20% here, 44 and 82. Once we normalized for the drops in specialty programs, 15, 30, 75, right? And average lifetime client values of 10,005 or 11,5317, right? And you can also look at what their average monthly revenue per customer, where MadLab school was 217, our group average is 198, and the CrossFit average was 119. Tells a pretty compelling story. There's the data from our client development process, which is this. So this has evolved. You can see if you look at this thing, as we used to call it the funnel. But as this goes, it builds your reputation and your referrals. There's nothing better than a direct referral from someone who has a great experience with one of your coaches at the gym, right? So 70% of our new clients in Vancouver are direct referral from a coach. Just come on in and see Sheppy, or come see Tim or Tom, or come hang out with T-Bear, and those things are invaluable. And that's a direct result of your reputation. And if you look at your reputation or reach of your gym, if it's all paid marketing from some place and doesn't even have your people and it's a countdown timer, it's like, come on in here, and then they're tricked. It's gonna affect your reputation. I don't give a fuck what anybody says, and your referrals. And anybody who's done that knows. So what does your first point of contact look like? And for us, the coach first calls the person up directly. What does that consult look like? It's probably a 30-minute to an hour. You sit down and talk to them, figuring out all their pain points. And, we have communication training, sales training, all this kind of stuff. Teach our coaches that. There's a 3-day assessment. That's changed. Back in my day, even 2 or 3 years ago, it was a 1-day assessment. Now it's a 3-day assessment. Actually, the consult and the first day were combined. The group, after we brought in some professionals to look at it, Greg Max, sales training, this works a lot better. And that 3-day assessment, should be summers between $250 and $300, and then we do summers between 15 and 18 PT sessions for the average person. Someone who might be not average could do less, and someone who not average could do a lot more. But on average, we do summers in there. And then they go to a hybrid membership, which is, the median one is once every month or once every 6 weeks. And that should be like $275 to $300. And then that gets us an 80% retention rate year after year, right? Actually, in our gym, we have over 100 people who have been there for 5 years. And I think we got like 30 some that have been there for more than 10. So that's kind of cool. That's building a reputation. So this is how we came about developing our client development process. You see our coach development process will be another day. It's a whole nother 20-minute argument of how we came up with it. But it's not based on pulling a straw out of a hat. It's based on this is what fucking works, and we will change it anytime, and we have for whatever works better. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed this latest one. Data-driven client development process. If you're doing group on-ramps, stop doing them. Oh!